class is on herbs. We're going to talk about herbs. So are there any like herbalists in the room, like herb fanatics in the room, like regular herb users in the room? All right.
The level of expertise there was...
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. So my goal tonight, because we're doing 5 classes, so my goal tonight is basically to convince you that herbs is something that needs to be part of your daily life. Okay, I'm going to show you how herbs are really powerful. It's the oldest system of medicine known. In fact, it's like the only system of medicine we've had for 5,000 years. The other thing I just want to make sure is that you don't feel intimidated by herbs. I think a lot of people don't use herbs because, well, they don't know much about them. Or they think that you have to go to an herbalist to know about herbs, which you should. You should go to an herbalist to learn about herbs. But you can be your own herbalist if you just learn some basic things. So again, tonight is just about kind of convincing you on why herbs are fantastic and kind of get you excited about using herbs. In future classes, we'll test herbs. We'll talk about health conditions with herbs. I'm doing a class called 7 Healers, which is like the 7 most powerful healing things that have ever existed throughout time. We'll get into formulations. We'll teach people how to make an herbal tea versus an infusion versus a decoction versus a tincture for who's interested in those types of things. We'll get all crazy into it. Okay, it'll be a lot of fun. So I guess the first thing, and if anybody ever has a question, just throw up your hand right away and we'll answer it and take care of it right away. So the first question is, what is an herb? Okay, so a lot of people are confused on this. I think a lot of people, tell me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of people can attest to, when they think of herbs, they think of like spices that they throw on their food. Yeah. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. Those are herbs. So 2 things. One, there's other herbs besides those spices. And the second thing is, most people have no idea how powerful and how medicinal those things are that they just throw in their food, like for decoration or to make it taste better. Okay, I mean, these are some of the most healing foods that have been used all around the world for thousands of years. And to us, it's just like, oh, let's throw a little of this. It's yummy. So it's so much more than that. So, I think the appreciation for it. I also in America, we're a little bit spoiled. We have everything we want. We kind of take things for granted. So I think it's important to kind of appreciate some of these things too. So an herb, according to Merriam-Webster, is a plant or plant part valued for its medicinal, savory, or aromatic qualities. One of the things we're going to do in future classes is we're going to talk about herbs that, because I'm not a high-tech, complicated herbalist type of guy. I trained with 3 brilliant master herbalists when I lived out in Vegas. James Sloan owned a company called Mountain Mist Botanicals. He was like the brainiac guy that if you didn't tell him to slow down and like speak in English, you miss what he's saying because he knows all the complex chemical structures of the body. He was in the medical field for 16 years and then he got kind of fed up with that and went into herbalism. He's one of the guys I trained with. Angela Harris, who I trained with, has an amazing story. She started a company called Herbally Grounded. She had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She was given 3 months to live by her doctors. She was pregnant with her 8th child. They said, regardless of what happens, you will lose your child, even if you happen to live. She didn't accept it. She didn't do radiation. She didn't do chemo. What's really funny about her story is she didn't really know much about herbs. Her mom used herbs, and she knew herbs had medicinal qualities, but she didn't know what herbs were best or what to take for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or what quantities to take and what ratio and these kind of things. Yes?
What was she doing for a living at the time? Was she a housewife?
She was a housewife, yes. Okay. She was a housewife.
But had not learned that from Mom. That's interesting.
Yeah. But Mom had used herbs. She just didn't know a lot about it. So she's funny. She's like, I just started taking every herb I could find and I threw them all together. And she said literally it was like a thick, disgusting mud paste. And I just drank it every day. And she said, if you know what non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is, cancer of the lymphatic system, you get huge, swells in your lymphatic system. It can be the size of golf balls or even bigger. And the lumps started to go down. And then the lumps completely disappeared. And then she had a completely healthy 8th child. And she dedicated the rest of her life to healing people with herbs. She's now an amazing herbalist. Her main thing is hormone balancing. She's big into hormone balancing with everyone she works with. But neat story. And when she told people her story, she just started giving people herbs out of her house and then eventually turned it into a business.
What's her name?
Angela Harris. And her website is actually angelaharris.com. You can read her website. You can read her story on her website. But I carry up a lot of her products. Her hormone balancing formula is amazing. I have a lot of women on that. But that's what she specializes in. Then, yes, Tom?
What was the first guy's name? Sloan?
James Sloan.
James?
Yeah, he owns a company called Mountain Mist Botanicals. Brilliant guy. The third herbalist that I trained a lot with is Carl Robinson with Cedar Bear Naturals. Has anybody ever heard of Cedar Bear Naturals? Okay, they're not like a huge national company or anything, but brilliant guy who actually studied all different modalities of herbalism. So studied TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine. Studied Ayurveda, which is the oldest system of medicine in India. Studied Native Americans, actually lived with Native Americans. He's one of those guys that, I don't know what they call it, like maybe a bear whisperer or something, but he can be like a friend with a bear and get real close to it and kind of like high-five it or whatever. Yeah. So, I don't know, that's hard for me to fathom, but really cool guy, really in touch and in tune, and he developed his own system of herbs, which we'll talk more about in another class when we talk about how to prepare herbs and make tinctures and things like that. But he only uses vegetable glycerin, just to give you a taste. He only uses vegetable glycerin in all his herbs. Most herbal liquid formulas you find are all alcohol-based. He is not a fan of that. He believes alcohol renders inert a lot of the important medicinal properties of the plant and destroys a lot of the plant constituents. So he's found a process that, of course, he patented where he can extract every aspect of that plant using only vegetable glycerin. He's the only one in the entire country, the only company that's ever known to be able to do that. He's blown some other herbalists away with his products and tested it against leading brands and blows them away. And for the cost of his stuff, like a little bottle of his stuff's like $11. So, and in the future class, I can't remember exactly which one, but I think in 2 weeks, I'm going to bust out their tinctures and we're all going to taste them. And we're going to be like on a, well, I shouldn't have said what I was just going to say. Glad I didn't. But it makes you feel, you're putting a lot of herbs in your body and it's a weird effect. Okay, so I say that because I've been to their facility in Utah 3 different times and we're passing around all these different herbs and it's too much, you know. But when you first taste them, if you know what things taste like, or if you know what herbs are supposed to taste like if you know what maca tastes like, if you know what, people know what cinnamon tastes like, if you know what peppermint tastes like, if you know what some of these herbs taste like and you taste his tinctures, it'll blow you away. 1 drop under your tongue and you just feel the whole essence of that plant moving through your body. I mean, it is phenomenal. So I really, really love his products. So those are the 3 herbalists I trained with. So back to what an herb is. Really, it's anything you use for medicinal use, in my opinion. So stuff we buy at the grocery store are herbs, you know, garlic and ginger and parsley, and a lot of these things we consider herbs. Okay, I think where some of the intimidation comes in is that there's 100 bulk herbs, for example, I have in there, and you'll see parsley and ginger and turmeric and cayenne pepper, and you know what those things are and you know how to use them. Well, because you cook and you know spices, right? But the other ones, you're like, it's like a foreign language. It's like, okay, you know, schisandra berries and pau d'arco and cat's claw. Like, is that really the claw of a cat? No. So there's some really interesting, you know, jogulin and just some really cool named herb. And what cayenne pepper and ginger and garlic is to us, jogulin and goji berries and schisandra berries and ashwagandha and astragalus and these types of things have been to the Chinese for 5,000 years. They're foods, okay? A lot of them are root vegetables that they literally grew in their garden like we grow tomatoes. And they put them in all their soups and stews and things like that. So we're going to learn which ones are these types of plants that we can use on a daily basis and not be frightened of them. not be like, exactly how much of this do I take and exactly when do I take it? Like, if I tell you to take a half a teaspoon, is a teaspoon too much? You know, there's a lot of that going on, and that's important if you're using herbs for medicinal purposes, for short-term use. But like I said, I want to teach you guys how to use herbs on your own and not have to worry about measuring them, just worrying about putting amazing things in your body. So, little sign on top of my herbs there, if you haven't seen it, it says God's weeds, okay? So, every plant on this planet has medicinal value, okay? Every poisonous plant on this planet has medicinal value. One of the most medicinal plants on the entire planet is Venus flytrap, okay? Incredible studies they're doing on cancer and all types of things with Venus flytrap. I mean, so many herbs that are poisonous are great in small amounts. Poke root grows all around here. Okay, if you eat the berries, you're in trouble. Okay, but if you know how to use it medicinally, it's one of the best herbs for the liver. So you got to learn which herbs. You got to respect them all, but you got to learn which ones you can use, and it better be the ones you understand. And be careful with the other, or ask somebody, of course. So all plants have amazing virtues. And I put the quote in here, one of my favorite quotes, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A weed is but a plant whose virtues have yet to be discovered." Okay? So to you it's a weed, to someone else it's a medicinal food or a medicine. And it's just unfortunate we're such babies when it comes to herbalism in America, mostly just because it's been rejected and it's been ignored. It's not that the science and the proof isn't out there, it's the fact that it's been ignored and it's been overrun. We'll talk more into that later. So the history of herbology is amazing. I mean, nothing's been more studied, nothing's been more researched in the history of the world. Every natural healer you can think of has used herbs. Why? Well, that's all they had. Okay, pharmaceutical drugs is an invention that has just happened within the last 60 years. Not saying there's not a time and a place for them, but there's a lot more research and a lot more safety behind herbs than there is pharmaceutical medication. I was going to print out, I think I forgot to print it out. There was a study just done, and it was the American Association Poison Control Center. It was some government agency that was a poison center, a national poison control center.
Right.
And they just, who knows about this? Okay.
And actually, I think I just saw you cite it here.
Oh, did I?
American Association of Poison Control Centers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on
Where is
page
that?
3. Are herbs safe?
Yes. Okay. So skipping around here, but American Association of Poison Control Center, and this was just released last week. They did a study, and all the results from 2009 of cause of death in America. In the year 2009, there was not one single death attributed to an herb, a homeopathic product, any type of natural therapy, okay? Yet, over 100,000 deaths per year from pharmaceutical drugs. But you'll see doctors say, "Oh my gosh, don't take that herb. Oh my gosh, that's dangerous. Don't do that." It's ignorance, okay? Ignorance means lack of knowledge. It doesn't mean the person's not intelligent, okay? So ignorance means they're not educated on it because it's not part of their educational process, because it's not a drug. Are you going to say something, Tom?
Well, aren't they trying to pass legislation that says you can't use herbs, the natural?
Every year they do that.
Yeah. And Europe, it's
No, that's not
come
right.
up recently. Europe,
Yeah.
they're passing one, and they've been using herbs for.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Much longer than we
They
have.
got it, yeah. They
But yeah,
got it.
every year new legislation comes up, and then people have to fight it and write their congressmen and do all that and have to vote against it. But that happens often. I won't say every year, but often that happens. And so, but if they ever passed it completely, believe me, there'd be a revolution like you've never seen. Because 80% of all people use natural remedies. Doctors use natural remedies. Nurses use natural remedies. But because it's not their standard of care, drugs are their standard of care, it's outside of their scope of care, they can't recommend it legally to a patient. Some are starting to more and more, but they're kind of being risky about it. So the first documented history of herbs is the Egyptians. We're talking 3000 BC. Egyptians were writing on papyrus bark, different types of plants and different medicinal uses for them. Obviously, Hippocrates. I love Hippocrates quotes, so I put a few of them in here. And it's just ironic how we base, well, I don't want to say we base our system of medicine on Hippocrates, but doctors take a Hippocratic oath. And I can pretty much guarantee you that doctors don't study Hippocrates when they go to medical school. Yet we still take the Hippocratic oath, which, I don't know, I don't think that's quite right. But if you look at the first one, first, do no harm. Okay, so the 2009 report, 0 deaths from herbs, 100,000 deaths from pharmaceutical drugs. Okay, so, who are you trusting with your health? So, here's some more quotes from Hippocrates. They're all good. One of the ones I really like is, to eat when you are sick is to feed your sickness. A lot of people force themselves to eat when they're not feeling well. The body doesn't want food when it's trying to heal itself. If you force food on the body, you delay your healing.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you should never eat if your body doesn't want to eat. Everything in excess is opposed to nature. That's a great one. Yes.
I was going to say that thing about not eating when you're sick. I work with children and babies. They are excellent. They know when to eat and when not to eat.
Yes.
And parents, they almost force feed them, and it's very difficult to tell the parents, your baby knows better than you do. They do.
That is perfectly said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, because children go on instinct, right?
Yeah.
And we have programmed our brains to think a certain way, which isn't always right. And you're right, we force it.
And
So,
we kind of need to train the parents that way.
sure. Yep, absolutely.
And that training makes you not listen to your body when it tries to tell you something.
Exactly.
Because you forgot the language.
Yeah, we definitely need to learn how to listen to our bodies. And people will notice that. I mean, I see that a lot with people. I just had one of my clients in here this morning. I met with him, and he's totally changed everything he's done over the last month. And he's like, my taste buds are changing. Like, he was so excited, because things he didn't used to like, now he likes, and things that are junk, like, he doesn't like so much anymore. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that could happen. Well, that's great. You're finally getting in touch with your body a little bit. We're so out of touch with our bodies. Herbs is a great way to help us, reestablish connection with our bodies. So how do herbs differ from pharmaceuticals? Well, just some of the things I mentioned. I mean, herbs are obviously safe. Okay. There's another study I read that in a 10-year period, they attributed 3 deaths to herbs and natural therapies. 3 deaths in 10 years. Again, compare that to 100,000 per year from pharmaceutical meds. You're talking more people in all the wars ever fought in the history of America. It's like one of the equivalents of how many people die from drugs every day is the equivalent of 2 jumbo jets falling out of the sky every day and killing every person on board. And when that happens, that's like worldwide news. Okay, but this stuff going on in our medical community is totally ignored. So it's scary. And it's interesting. Obviously, plants and herbs is what we've had throughout history for medicine. So when the pharmaceutical drug craze, most of you know this, I'll say it for you who might not. But drugs, in order for them to patent them and sell them, they have to have a chemical component to it. Okay? You can't take a dandelion and put a patent on it and sell it to people. Okay? Because it's a dandelion. Okay? But you can, I'm making this up, but you can take dendroleic oxide and add a chemical to it and put a patent on it and sell it to people for 1,000 times more than it costs to get it, which is free. That's the drug industry in a nutshell. So in order for them to make money, they have to patent these things. So since all we've ever had throughout history is herbs, when the first drugs came on the market, almost every single one of them was plant-based. Well, they had to be. That's all we had. But as more and more chemicals have been introduced into our world and into our society, they now say there's over 70,000 known chemicals in our food supply. With the addition of all these chemicals, the plants have slowly disappeared and the chemicals have taken over. That's why you see the side effects from drugs getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, tell me who hasn't been bombarded with the commercials, like every other commercial is a drug commercial. And possibly death is like always the end of the sentence. So when it used to be 85+% were all plant-based drugs, now only about 15-20% of pharmaceutical drugs are plant-based because they're getting away from the plants and they're focusing on the chemicals. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so I guess another point in that, and how pharmaceuticals are different from herbs, a huge point is the fact that herbs build health. Okay, drugs suppress health. Okay, they suppress symptoms, they suppress disease, they do nothing to build health. Okay, I was talking to another gal earlier today about bone health. This is a perfect example. I said, okay, when I talk to people, I try to be logical so that it makes sense. So if you're talking about bone health, what is something you might be deficient in that would cause you to have weak bones? Is it possible that a deficiency in green foods high in calcium could cause weak bones? Is it possible that a deficiency in exercise, adequate exercise, could be responsible for weak bones? Okay, is it possible that a deficiency in Fosamax and Boniva could be the cause of your weak bones? Does that make sense? An aspirin deficiency is not why you have a headache. Okay, it's a Band-Aid. So pharmaceutical drugs suppress health, and they do nothing to build health. Antibiotics means anti-life. Okay, it destroys everything in the system. Probiotic means pro-life. Okay, I could give you so many examples. But when you find out how pharmaceutical drugs really work in the body, it's infuriating what happens. Let me give you one more example. Cholesterol, okay, because this is a big one for me. A lot of people have high cholesterol. The reason you have high cholesterol is not because you were deficient in a drug, obviously, okay, but the reason people have high cholesterol is because of dietary choices. Whether they do it on purpose or they're just not educated on it. They're not eating properly. And by the way, if you have really high cholesterol, it's sugar, 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 okay? Sugar turns to fat. When you have high cholesterol and you take a statin drug, a cholesterol-lowering medication, what you're doing is you're shutting off the natural production of cholesterol that's produced in your liver every single day. Your cholesterol produces your liver produces cholesterol every single day. Why? It's a life-saving substance. It lines our veins and arteries. It builds our nervous system. It strengthens our muscles. It's what produces hormones. Okay? So you take a statin drug, it superficially lowers your cholesterol because it stops the production of your natural cholesterol from your liver. So it does nothing to address why you have high cholesterol, which is from poor eating habits. Instead suppresses the natural cholesterol in your body produced by your liver, which is a life-saving substance. So you got like a double whammy going on. And then you go back to the doctor and they're like, your cholesterol normal levels are good. We're so deceived, it's not even funny. But I say all that to say this, herbs are a much better option. They don't superficially Band-Aid the body. Okay, they actually build health. That's a very important point. So getting into that, the benefits of herbs. I always forget to drink water and then at the end I'm like, so the benefits of herbs. There's so many. The main thing I like about herbs is I truly feel like they're one of the last untouched, unadulterated things by mankind. So, again, we have all these chemicals and all this crazy stuff in our food supply, but even take our fruits and vegetables. Okay, and it's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, you shouldn't, fruits and vegetables aren't good, and a lot of us know the history of how our soil's been depleted, and we're not good stewards of our land. So, we don't have as nutritious food as we used to. There's no doubt about it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't eat fruits and vegetables, obviously, okay? The better quality you can get, the better. Most of you know I'm real big on farmers markets, supporting local farmers markets have started again. Downtown Overland Park Farmers Market's a fantastic farmers market. Support local, buy local. It does not have to be organic. It needs to be from a local farm. Talk to the farmers, see if they use chemicals. They will tell you. They'll be very honest with you. They should be. You might be able to even go visit their farm if you want. But even fruits and vegetables, I'll give you one example, okay? The apple, okay? Does anybody kind of know a little bit about the history of the apple? How apples came into existence? Okay. So when Johnny Appleseed, we'll just go back that far, okay? By the way, apples come from the Mideast, okay? But Johnny Appleseed, when he came over here and he was dropping his little apple seeds all around, and that's a true story. You know.
Johnny Wilcox, I think it was.
Was it? Okay, Johnny Wilcox, maybe. So, dropping his little apple seeds all around the place, and all these apple trees were growing. Okay, but guess what? None of them were edible. Like 95% of them were not edible. Most apples are not edible. Okay, they're so sour, I mean, you can't even take a bite. So what did they do? Huh?
Cider.
Bingo. They made cider. They fermented it. Okay, that was the boom of the cider industry because the fruit was not sweet enough to eat. So they fermented it and they made cider out of it. So the reason that is because apples are a very genetically diverse plant. Okay, so if you take an apple tree, one species of an apple tree, and you take the seeds from that apple and you plant it, you'll grow a different type of apple. Did you know that? You knew that. You'll grow a different type of apple. It will not grow the same type of apples. Okay? So, when once in a while they'd come across an apple that was sweet and was edible, okay, they had to find a way to preserve it to use it. Because, wow, okay, this is an apple we can eat, finally. So what they have to do is, what's the word for it? It's not is it grafting?
It's grafting.
Grafting. So they have to graft the tree and change the genetic sequence, the genetics of that tree to grow that specific type of apple. So what's happened is there's only a few sweet types of apples that exist. Even though there's thousands and thousands of variety of apples. Okay? So it creates what's called a monoculture. Okay? A monoculture means the same species produced over and over and over and over again. What does that produce? A very, very, very weak plant. A weak plant, a diseased plant, a plant that's going to be prone to any fungus or bacteria or virus or anything that comes along. Okay? You heard about the Great Potato Famine? I'm getting off on tangents, but I love it. You heard about the Great Potato Famine in Ireland? Do you know why that happened? Russet potatoes, monoculture. The Peruvians grew hundreds of varieties of potatoes. The Irish said, this one's good enough for us. Let's grow thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of it. It was all the same plant. One bug came along and said, I like those potatoes. Gone. That was the Irish potato famine because the genetic strength was gone from that species of plant. Okay, so that's what's happened with apples, seedless grapes, seedless watermelon. Go to the farmer's market, get seeded grapes and seeded watermelons. You'll never eat anything seedless again in your life. The taste is like night and day. And the seeds are so good for you. Okay, I'm done on tangents. So,
for the moment.
I say that because that's why herbs are so amazing. Herbs aren't monocultured. You know, they don't take a specific variety of XYZ herb and grow thousands and thousands of acres of it. Once in a while they do that for some of the more popular ones, but for the most part, a lot of these herbs are harvested in their natural environment or grown on small farms. Or a lot of companies that I work with, like you guys, a lot of you have heard me talk about North American Herb and Spice and some of these companies I really like. They actually contract with people who live in the local area, like the acai berry that's so popular, okay? People contract with locals down there to pick these berries for them that are growing wild in their natural environment. That's where the power is. Oregano, okay? Oregano is not just oregano, okay? The North American Herb and Spice oregano grows in the mountains of Greece and Turkey over 5,000 feet. There's only two plants that grow at that elevation, sage and the oregano. You don't think that's a crazy, powerful plant that has to defend itself against nature? Why do plants have medicine? They have to. They couldn't exist. Think about it. They're living in the elements. They're being attacked by bugs. They're being attacked by viruses. They're being attacked by fungus. If plants did not create their own medicine, they could not survive. Does that make sense? Think about your dandelion that's growing in the crack out there. That sucker's fighting for survival. I'm not saying I'm going to go out there and eat it, but it's fighting for survival. Okay? When plants are grown organically, they're on their little farm and they get the water every day and, you know, that's great, but it's not going to be near as powerful as a plant that's growing on the mountainside that's having to fight the elements. Okay, so I'm big into wildcrafting and getting things in their natural environment because that's where the power's at. And that's what some of these companies know, like North American Herbal Spice. Yeah, their oregano oil is more expensive than anyone else, but 1 or 2 drops might knock out a cold. So it's very powerful, yes?
Isn't that what they said about grapes and wine? That wine that comes from a grape that had to work, or a vine that had to work harder is better than a vine that was full of ease?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
unfertile ground.
Yep, absolutely, well said. So it's always better to get it in its natural environment. All the herbs I have, for example, are either organic or wildcrafted, because people are big into organic, and that's cool. I think that's great. But the first question a lot of people ask is it organic? Is it organic? And I'm like, no, it's actually better. People don't know there's a better than organic. Okay, it's called wildcrafted, and it's picked in their natural environment. I'm not doing any classes this summer, but I think we'll maybe do like a weed walk or something, go to China Mission Park and identify some plants and have some fun or something like that. But it's so much better to get them in their natural environment. Okay, so that's one of the main things I love about herbs is just they've retained all their nutritional properties and their medicinal properties because, well, they haven't been, I hate to say it, but ravaged by man, which is what has happened to most of our food supply and most of our crops. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Can you say which herbs you use for high cholesterol?
We're going to do that in the class in the future.
Oh,
We're going
good.
to talk about specific health conditions and specific herbs and things like that in the future
So I
class.
didn't miss it.
Yeah.
When you eat grapes with seeds, do you chew up all the seeds and eat them?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Shoot,
You know, people think that's weird.
With at least grape.
Has anybody heard of buying grape seed extract in a store?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's grape seeds.
What about other seeds?
It depends on the seed. It depends on the seed. Okay, most of them are fine. Okay, plums, peaches, apricots. I'll break open the shell and eat the seed when I have those types of fruits.
Can you still get that grapeseed extract? It's very, very
Bitter.
like this. Is that still for sale over here?
I don't know.
Because it has been prohibited.
Oh, really?
in-
Oh, I don't know about that.
in-
Yeah, I haven't heard about that.
I
Not
think
sure.
you could still get it.
If you want to Google something really
Right
interesting,
at the start there.
just a side note, since we're talking about grapes. Hang on, let me finish grapes. You have a grape question? Okay, hang on. If you want to Google something really interesting, Google the grape cure for cancer.
Really?
The
grape cure.
Yeah, it's controversial, but lots of people have cured themselves from cancer by eating grapes. Why? Huh? Not wine. Not wine.
Oh, thank you.
Although I have nothing against wine. Just in excess. But the reason grapes cure cancer is a potential cure for cancer, let me say, is because grapes have sugar in them, okay? And sugar is known to feed cancer cells, if you've heard that. However, grapes have about 13 different nutrients that are anti-cancer. So it'll totally eradicate cancer cells when it enters the body. The resveratrol, the ellagic acid. It's got so many cancer-fighting nutrients in it that it'll totally wipe it out.
So it just uses sugar for a lure and then...
It's kind of like a lure. And what's funny is sometimes people need a parasite cleanse or whatever. I just did a parasite cleanse myself not too long ago. The one I used is called Dr. Christopher's Herbal Parasite. I tell people when they're doing a parasite cleanse, don't eat any sugar. Don't touch any sugar because that's what parasites eat. Well, the herbal parasite formula is in a vegetable glycerin base, which is sugar. So that's the only sugar you put in your body. Parasites eat it and it kills them. And it works. So.
Now, another great question. Do you differentiate with a cancer cure the black, the red, the green?
You'd have to read it, because I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it, but I'm pretty darn sure it's red Concord grapes. Seeded. Yep. And they taste them. Seeded grapes taste them. Anybody here had seeded grapes?
Yeah.
Are they not like amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, huge difference. Did you have a question, Tom?
Can you eat seed of an avocado?
Absolutely. If you have a Vitamix, you can blend it in the Vitamix. Very nutritious. Yep. All right, let's see. Other benefits of herbs. The other thing is, and I don't want to sound kind of weird or new agey, but herbs have a intelligence to them. They do. I mean, they were created by God, so they're intelligent plants. The reason I say that is, how does, I just give the example of, how does a milk thistle, when it enters your body, know to heal the liver? Okay, how do juniper berries know to heal the kidneys? Okay, because everything has an energy or a frequency to it, and certain herbs are attracted to the energy or the frequency of certain parts of your body. Okay, so that's why it can potentially heal that part of your body. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the other great thing about herbs. Let me talk about one more thing, difference between kind of herbs and pharmaceuticals. I'm a big fan of herbs and full spectrum, what I call full spectrum herbs. Okay, that means the herb, the plant, in its full natural state. Okay, have you heard of standardized extracts? Okay, I am not a fan. Okay, you have to chemically and physically alter the state of that plant to create a standardized extract. Okay, that's not getting the plant in its full medicinal benefit and quality, in my opinion. Okay, you can buy all kinds of standardized extracts out there, and yeah, they might be stronger for a specific purpose. You know, you can buy silimacin, which is an extract of milk thistle for your liver, and it works great for some people. I prefer to get the whole plant, because it's the synergistic quality of the plant is why it works, not one single aspect. Let me give you a good example of that. Vitamin C. Does anyone know the history of vitamin C? Okay, it was discovered by a Yugoslavian scientist in a pepper, actually, a chili pepper. And when he discovered the vitamin C, this was like in the 40s. Of course, it was known about before then, but the science was done. And he would give the pepper, because he found vitamin C in the pepper, he would give that to people with scurvy. Okay, people know what scurvy is. It's the degeneration of the blood vessels, and you start to bleed. You know, we don't see people getting scurvy anymore, right? So when he gave the pepper to the people with scurvy, it reversed scurvy. He's like, all right, I found vitamin C. So he continued to study and research, and he continued to extract the plant out. Okay? So if he was using the whole plant with the vitamin C and reversing scurvy, when he chemically took the plant all the way to quote-unquote vitamin C ascorbic acid, if you've heard of ascorbic acid, when he gave the ascorbic acid to people, it didn't reverse scurvy. In fact, it had no effect on them. So people today are still taking ascorbic acid, which used to be coal tar derivatives, now is mostly genetically modified corn. Okay? You gotta be really careful where you get your products from. Okay? So I don't think, not that there can't be healing benefits to taking what I call, it's called the isolate vitamin, when you isolate it out from its original plant form, a plant structure. I give niacin, vitamin B3, to people who have depression. It works. Okay? B12 can benefit some people. There's a couple of things I use when I have to use them. But 99% of the time you will see me only using whole plants. Okay? In herb form, tea form, tincture form, etc. Or a concentrated form. Okay? But always the whole plant in its natural state. Okay, does that resonate? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And not saying people aren't going to have different opinions. They're going to have people have different opinions. That's my take on it. I believe God created it perfectly in the first place. So I don't need to alter it. So. Oh, I already talked about organic versus wild-crafted. See, I skip around. Do herbs really work? Well, yeah. I mean, it's, again, the research has been ignored. Okay? Look up, I don't want to pick on anyone in particular, but pick up a pharmaceutical drug and see how many research studies have been done. You'll find quite a few. Okay? Google research studies that have been done on turmeric. Look at how many research studies have been done on ginger. Look at how many research studies have been done on oregano. The oregano I have by North American Herb and Spice, I have a book this thick on studies done in universities around the world where they tested against E. coli, C. diff, H. pylori, the avian bird flu virus, cold flu virus, AIDS virus, hepatitis C virus. Okay? Killed it in nanoseconds, faster than penicillin or any antibiotic. Okay? These things have been researched, you just don't hear about it. You don't hear like, Channel 9 News, oregano kills AIDS virus. You know? You're not going to hear about it. So unless you research it for yourself, you're not going to find it. If you want to look at a medical book, you know the best medical books to look at? If you want to be a really good herbalist, get on Amazon or something like that and find any medical book pre-1900. Actually, pre-1915. Okay? If you look at any medical book that was published before 1915, it's filled with herbs and natural healing methods. They didn't have drugs. So 5,000 years worth of research, and I'd say a good 200 years of research with some pretty good modern science is completely ignored. Completely ignored. Some of you were here when we watched that movie, Food Matters. They were talking about vitamin C therapy, intravenous vitamin C, completely reversing cancer, doing 100,000 milligrams of vitamin C at one time. 0 side effects, reversing cancer. KU Med Center is doing intravenous vitamin C research. Did anybody know that? No. Okay. There's a bill in legislation right now to outlaw vitamin C therapy.
I knew that.
You heard that? Yeah, so all this information is being suppressed and it's being ignored. Why? We know why. It's money. Yeah, you know, it's profit. Okay, it's all about money and it's about profit. So that's why you're here, you know, so that you can learn how to use these things for yourself and for your family and find alternatives to drugs. And by the way, drug, does anybody know where the word drug came from? It's a Dutch word. Droog, D-R-O-O-G, actually means dried plant. Okay, so that's the actual definition of the word drug, is a dried plant.
Wow.
I mean, drug was not invented by the pharmaceutical companies. Okay, drugs have been around for a long time. All right, are herbs safe? I give a lot of examples here, but yeah, this is kind of a summary of that article. We don't have to go into too much detail there. I give a couple of, man, I didn't bring any of my books out. If you guys want, I got some of those old medical books. They're crazy cool. To look up these different illnesses and diseases. And it's kind of interesting too, because you'll see stuff that like doesn't exist anymore, like diphtheria and pertussis and cholera and, you know, things that people don't get anymore. It's really fascinating to read them. And then I had these old little books that was like, obviously it was like a publication that they sent to somebody's house, and they were like 5 cents or something, and it has all these herbal remedies. Like they're really cool to look at. And you can get a lot of great ideas on those. So let's see, another question. Are any questions on anything? No? Okay. Are powders or liquids better? Again, both. Now there's certain things I'll use for certain times, for certain purposes. Let me give you an example. Okay, I'm a big fan of oregano. Okay, just to give you one example. If somebody's fighting a cold virus, flu virus, nasal thing, something like that, liquid oregano under the tongue, 4 or 5 drops every couple hours, boom, your cold's gone the next day. Okay? Whereas the average cold lasts for 2 weeks, they say. Knocks it out in a day, every time. If you have, say, E. coli, food poisoning, upset stomach, something like that, you actually take the oregano capsules. So you swallow the capsule, it goes straight to the stomach, opens, and bam, eradicates it in the stomach. Okay, so there's different delivery systems that work for different things. So I'm a big fan of liquids under the tongue, because obviously it immediately goes straight into the bloodstream. Okay, but the bottom line is both liquids, both powders are great. I'm more of a fan, especially if you're a beginner in herbs, of just getting the dang things in your body. Just starting to use them, just starting to feel the difference and feeling better taking herbs. Okay, and learning how to use them. Herbal combinations and formulas, we'll get a lot more into that. in future classes. But I'm going to make it really simple, okay? The first thing I'm going to teach you guys is the different classifications of herbs, okay? But what we're going to focus on are ones you guys can use every day and not have to worry about if it's okay for your kid or not, okay? I think that's important. So, nutritive herbs, okay, are exactly what they sound like. Herbs that are loaded with nutrition, okay, that aren't used. They're going to have a medicinal effect, but not a strong medicinal effect. Okay, they're more of an overall nutritive. And then Chinese tonic herbs, which I'm a huge, huge fan of. Okay, we're really going to focus on tonic herbs because they're safe to take on a daily basis. You can take them in larger amounts, and they're safe. They're safe for everyone. The only exception I make to that usually is if anybody is pregnant. You know, you really want to be careful, obviously, with women that are pregnant. And it's not so much that herbs are so unsafe. It's that a lot of herbs can stimulate contractions and things like that. So you want to be, there's a very few select herbs that pregnant women use, or that I ever recommend pregnant women use. But other than that, for the most part, if it's a nutritive herb or a Chinese tonic herb, we'll talk in detail about a lot of those that you can use on a daily basis. And you'll learn to use them as food. You'll put them in soups or stews, or throw them in a shake or smoothie, or find a way to incorporate it into your daily life. Okay, that's the best way to take herbs. And for the beginner, again, because there's certain herbs that have such a strong medicinal effect, like licorice root. Okay, a lot of people overdo licorice root, and it can cause heart palpitations and high blood pressure and all kinds of things. But that's because people abuse it and they overuse it and they don't know how to use it. So if you're a beginner, always recommend getting a formula. Okay? So like the cedar bear tinctures over there, they have all these singles. Okay, and I use them when I need to. But if you want something for heart health, take the cardiovascular health product. It's got like 5 or 6 different herbs in them. Because if one has a strong medicinal property to it, there's other herbs in there that'll balance and offset that. Okay, so there's always safety in increasing the amount of herbs in your formula. So always do formulations, especially if you're a beginner. That's safe, and you don't really have to worry about it. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. Absorption rate of herbs, kind of talked about that. You can read over that. Again, it depends on the method you use. I will say this though, what I find interesting is, you guys are here because you're obviously interested in herbs. Has anybody taken an herb and been like, that didn't do anything for me? Be honest. I have, lots of times. Okay? So, there's a couple of different ways to look at that. Okay, one is, the example I give people is, do you eat a carrot expecting to be like jump through the roof and immediately have better vision or have tons of energy? No, we eat carrots because we know they're good for us. Okay, and we know that they have nutritional qualities. So that's one aspect of it. Learning that it's good and beneficial for you, it'll have a long-term cumulative effect on your body, just like carrots will. It's true. If you juice carrot juice every day and you have an eye problem, it'll correct your vision. Okay, it's a lot of sugar though, but it works. So, I lost my train of thought. Absorption rate.
Mouse.
The amount, you have to continue to take it before it starts seeding.
Doesn't seem to have an effect or not.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem to have an effect or not. So anyway, the second aspect of that would be your level of health, your current level of health. Okay? We live in America. A lot of people don't eat well, and they get sick, and they come in here and they expect to take an herb and feel better. Well,
magic pills, bro.
Magic pills, man. It's the pill for every ill, right? So I'm pretty blunt and honest. Most of you guys know that. And I'm the first person to tell people. Like, I sell supplements in my store, and the first thing I tell people, especially if I'm working with them one-on-one, if you don't want to make dietary changes or change the way you're eating every day, then you're wasting your time. Don't buy expensive supplements. You're looking for a Band-Aid fix, a quick fix, a cure. It doesn't exist. So it's a lifestyle combination of changes. Not to say taking one herb can't benefit you greatly, okay? But you have to have made the conscious decision that you want to be healthy, not the conscious decision that I want to still do whatever I want, eat whatever I want, and take this because it's going to make me better. Okay, that's a very American mentality. Does anybody agree with that? So yeah, I think that's very important to understand that it's a lifestyle and it's a combination of factors. Yes?
Well, I feel that there's a third component, and since we're here at Natural High, which is colon therapy, and which is all about cleansing,
Yes.
I think that a lot of people are gunked up,
No doubt.
and their colon is impacted. And so when they take the herb or they drink it, it's actually just going right through the body. It's not getting in there. So I think that along with doing the herbs, you also have to be on a cleansing diet and have your body cleansed.
So in case anyone didn't hear that, she said that the other aspect of that is the fact that we need to cleanse. You know, a lot of people's bodies are toxic, for lack of a better word. I mean, and it all depends on your rate of absorption. You know, if you have tons of digestive problems and you want to take a bunch of herbs to, you know, you can take herbs to help with your digestion, but you might not be able to process them properly. Okay, a lot of people have impaired digestion, they have blockages in their system, liver's not functioning properly, colon's blocked, things like that. So you're not going to reap the benefits of herbs until you start to cleanse your system a little bit. So thank you for that point. Best time to take herbs, just in a nutshell, herbs are food, okay? How many, me, who else, back in the day, or maybe even still, take a multivitamin, and they had to take their multivitamin with food or it hurt their stomach? Anybody? That's it? Okay. Why is that? Why do multivitamins hurt your stomach?
Because they're probably not natural.
Exactly, because they're synthetic junk.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not food. Synthetic stuff isn't food. I'm sorry. I'm picking on this because I used to take it. Megamin at GNC. It's not food. Okay? Remember I was talking about isolates? Okay? If you know how isolates are, Usp Ingredients. Ooh, this is a good story. So, Usp Ingredients. Okay? These are, you know, all your isolates. Okay, so all your different minerals in single form, all your different B vitamins, B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, ascorbic acid, vitamin E, vitamin D, all these things. For the most part, they're shipped over in large containers from overseas. Okay, it's giant powders of the same thing. All companies, in order to put it on their label, have to buy it from this government source. Okay? That's why most of this stuff is synthetic and it's cheap. Like vitamin C, ascorbic acid, genetically modified corn, shipped in huge containers. Okay, everybody's using the same stuff. Okay, so you don't know what you're getting. Okay, so you have to be really, really, really careful with your ingredients.
Some of it comes from China too.
A lot of it comes
And
from
if you
China.
want to trust what China puts out.
A lot of it comes from China. So here's what's fascinating about it. There was a company, it was like one of those multi-level deals, and people wanted me to get involved in it. And of course I look at the ingredients and all that, and I'm like, so what are the source of these ingredients? So if you're reading a food label, you know, you're reading a multivitamin label and it lists vitamins and minerals, you better have a source of where those foods come from. Otherwise it's not a food. You know, it's the synthetic stuff or cheap stuff coming in from overseas. And so they said, oh, well, you know, it's all natural. And I said, well, a lot of B vitamins are coal tar derivatives. And he's like, oh, no, that's old science. They don't use coal tar derivatives anymore. Well, yeah, a lot of B vitamins are still coal tar. But anyway, and all your artificial flavors and colors are coal tar derivatives as well, just so you know. So I called USP. Okay, I looked up their website, and I went on their website because I wanted to know, you know, what's the source of these nutrients? Nothing on their website. So I called them and I said, hey, I pretend like I was a customer. Yeah, I want to buy some of your blah blah blah. And what's the source, you know, of your, I don't know what it was, B vitamin, B6 or whatever. And I said, oh, I don't know. Let me see if somebody from the super crazy chemistry department or whatever they say is in. And they passed me to someone else, and then I got a voicemail and I left a message. Nobody called me back, and so I called again. Anyway, finally a gal's like, hey, email this email address, and they'll let you know. So I emailed them. I said, what's the original source of your B6, let's say? They responded back, and they said, for legal purposes, we cannot disclose the sources of our ingredients.
Oh my gosh.
I feel better.
And that's what's in most vitamins and mineral products that are on the store shelves, even in health food stores. So you just don't know what you're getting. What's that? What?
I said arsenic.
Arsenic? You never know, man.
No.
You never know.
That's really scary.
Vaughn?
Yes.
My mom started taking greens, and the multivitamin that she was taking, she's like, I don't have a need for it anymore. So I mean, that desire that she had for that multivitamin
Disappeared.
dropped because she's taking the greens.
That's cool. Did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the camera probably heard that. Yeah, that's good. That's a good
And also
story.
yogurt too. I mean,
What's
her,
that?
Her desire for yogurt dissipated too. So,
Seriously?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
by taking greens.
Maybe she's getting a better calcium source.
Yes.
Cool. Yes.
So are you saying that taking greens will take away cravings? Is that
Great point. That's another great thing about herbs. Okay? A lot of people don't put the best foods in their body. Even when we're eating healthy, we're not always getting the best nutrition. So if you put really nutrient-dense foods in your body, which again, herbs are the last kind of untouched thing out there, so they contain all those nutrients. When you're feeding your body what it needs, you realize you need less food, and your body needs less food. Let me give you a tip to McDonald's. Who eats McDonald's every day? No, I'm just kidding. Let me give you a tip, okay? Why do people eat McDonald's and an hour later can still be hungry? Even if they eat a whole meal, Big Mac, fries, Coke, the whole works. There's no nutrition in it.
Yeah, but fed your body.
And the chemical that tells the body it's full, they block it, so you'll eat more and more and more.
Absolutely, very good. So it's the chemicals in it, there's no nutrition in it, and there's a third trick to fast food places. If you look at everything on their menu, everything on there has less than 1 gram of fiber. Okay? You eat this much oatmeal, you feel full. Okay? So if you don't get any fiber in your system, you don't feel like you're full either. So you add those 3 things together, and you're never going to get full or satisfied from eating McDonald's. So a lot of times one general rule of thumb I tell people is start putting great things in your body and see if your body will change on its own. Okay? Not everybody immediately is going to stop drinking soda or stop eating fast food or whatever. That's fine. I mean, everybody's at their own place, on their own journey. You know, it's all about the awareness that they have. Some people are traveling all the time and it's really hard, you know. Various factors. But if you start putting good things in your body and start feeding your body the proper things, cravings will disappear. Sugar, for example. One of the great tricks to sugar cravings is increasing your good fat intake. Okay, increasing fat, which is a heavier, more sustainable fuel for the body. The body will stop saying, "I need a cookie," because he's always like this, you know, and an energy drink or whatever, because it's always on that roller coaster. So, did that answer your question? So, yeah, the better things you put in your body, you'll see your body start to change. Just like the guy, you know, this morning. He's kind of cut back on the fast food. He's starting putting the good fats, the greens, you know, all that good stuff in his body, and he's noticed his taste buds change. Myself as a personal example, you know, I grew up eating green beans, corn, and potatoes, and carrots. But I really didn't like any other vegetables. But when I started eating vegetables, I didn't like them all right away, you know, but as I ate more and my body started to change, suddenly I started to like vegetables. And now the only vegetable I don't like is,
Lima beans.
I thought everybody knew this, tomatoes, and everybody thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I don't like tomatoes. I love salsa.